Hey everyone, so I'm just making a video now to kind of update you on where I'm at. So I'm starting off here with Onslaught because we just had this event, and I was pretty happy with all the S-Class items that you were able to acquire. I was a little irritated that the last two milestones awarded you with the same number of S-Class gear. I feel like because the one asked for so many more wins, you should have gotten, well, more gear. So, like, even 400 of an item instead of 300. And if Onslaught is always going to award us with S Class items, I would almost rather have it than a bunch of the other events that we have going on, only because with it being faction milestones, it means everyone in your faction will be rewarded that many S-Class items. So in this case, it was a maximum of 800 S-Class items, which could help a faction out a lot, seeing as for most S-Class toons at the moment, you need 2,000 items in order to get the 5-star version, and that could really help some factions and some players get their S-Class toons faster. Of course, it's dependent on the number of wins that you have, but if the matchmaking is okay, I feel like this is an achievable goal for most factions, seeing as it does rely a lot on activity, but not too much. You needed to have about 20 wins an hour, I believe, which isn't that bad considering each player had 4 attacks, so that's 5 players having 4 successful attacks, which is doable by my standards at least. I know it might be more difficult in some of the newer factions where, their teams are not as strong, so it might be difficult to take out the different defensive teams that are up there. I know some of these teams were even difficult for me to take out in some cases, especially when I was trying to get the bonus 10,000 points from not using rushes. Sometimes I was just forced into it, and I kind of just thought about if anyone else in my team could hit this team without rushing, or if I should just finish it myself. So now just a few other things that are going on. I ended up pulling another Davy off the 5-star token wheel. He was a staple in my original bleed team and was just a solid toon for me at the time. In the past raid event, I was kind of raiding just to try and get some drops from the Typhoon event, and I was also thinking, I might be able to grab some cones at the same time. I knew I wasn't going to get first, just because I don't have the coins in order to keep going and going and going. But I was hoping to pull, hopefully, a light beacon out of one of these boxes, but I was also counting on another roadmap so that I could get another light beacon as well. I ended up being 2 light beacons short, but I did well in the raid event. I came in 3rd, and with that 3rd, it gave me 275 ice cream cones, which would actually help quite a bit with trying to get my first Priya. So I ended up getting the 275 cones, which was great. I don't even know why they really advertise even the 5-star tokens, because I guess if someone has both Priyas already and the S-Class Priya, I guess they could go for 5-star tokens, but I don't know. I feel like Scopely should have a conversion system for extra S-Class items by being able to convert like extra cones into keys or into cards or anything else really, because at some point they just become, well, worthless, which is kind of disappointing for a lot of people who have spent and now they have a bunch of these items that have 0 value to them. I guess that's something that's still a bit off. Like, I know that some free-to-play players have even gotten, some of the S-Class toons already, and they have bonus items too. So I guess it's not a priority for Scopely as much as people actually being able to compete. Like right now, I am a long ways off from having a true S-Class team. I just have James, and he works fairly well for me in the teams that I have, but I do wish that I had some other toons to support him that were of about the same caliber. So here's me just opening up some bags and stuff that I had. So I got 6 red flags, but in the past I've gotten 20 red flags in a bag like 3 times. I think I'm at 87 red flags already, but I don't have Wayland and I don't have Axel, and I only have 2 red kites. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to do with all these extra red flags, because I'm probably never going to use them. And why would I waste the resources leveling up 2 Generation 1 6 stars and then 1 Generation 2 6 stars, when we have S class that is released? It just doesn't make much sense to me, especially with all the gear requirements of S class toons. It just needs so much gear, and I am looking forward to getting another S class toon, but at the same time, I'm trying to save up gear now for them in anticipation. So I was finally able to get my first Priya, and I'm pretty excited because that Daze on attack weapon when she's a 6 star is an amazing weapon. Prevents the opponent from using their active skill, and that to me is super valuable. Just, you can use it on, say, a Cole, a Dr. Stevens, anyone else really who has a turn 1 active skill. Leopo has a turn 1, I believe, as well, and it would just save a lot of time in matches, in my opinion. Like even against Pete, for instance, with their turn 2 active skill, which just heals and heals and heals. So I'm really looking forward to leveling Priya up to at least use her as a 6 star toon. I can think of a few different attack teams that I can use her in order to win, more matches, hopefully. And I think that she will be a staple toon against Pete teams and other red defense teams. She is just such a good attacking toon, and when she becomes an S-class version of herself, she gets even more powerful and just makes your team so offensive, and it is crazy. I've seen some great teams with her in it, and that lead skill itself, plus 50 attack, a huge bonus to AP when attacking. Her rush does a high amount of damage. With 3 separate attacks, it can confuse and impair for 3 turns to a line of enemies as well. Her active skill is also very useful by removing all positive status effects. This could be anything, attack up, defense up. It could be anything that really just buffs the opponent. So if there's a revival loop, this is a great way in order to remove the buff that they usually have, a defensive buff. And then her weapon, of course, 100% chance to daze for 4 turns when your HP is more than 60%. This is just an amazing ability. And I know that there are now mods coming out that are like daze resist, but still, like you're going to see that, say, on Dr. Stevens, for instance, and other toons with turn 1 active skills. But at the same time, with there only being 2 available slots to put in resist mods, it's difficult to decide what you should or shouldn't put there. Next, when we look at Leopo, all melee teammates get plus 30 HP, plus 30 defense, and a huge bonus to AP when taking damage. The rush is great. Up to 5 enemies get impair, daze, and minus 60 attack for 3 turns. Just a really good defensive lead that way. The active skill, turn 1 exhaust, so 5 enemies get 300 exhaust for 3 turns. She is a perfect anti-Dr. Stevens team if we think about it. 300 exhaust. If Dr. Stevens gains 100% AP using their active skill, that's 3,000 HP in maim damage taken away from Dr. Stevens. So it's likely that I guess you'll see maim and daze resist, for Dr. Stevens at least. With an active skill like exhaust, you could almost intentionally attack Dr. Stevens without using a disarm toon, because the maim damage might be enough to actually take out the team as a whole, if you think about it. Now, this probably wouldn't work on all teams, but it would work on many of the teams. Next, we'll take a look at Rolito. I think he's a pretty good toon. He gives a huge bonus to AP when attacking to alert and strong teammates. All enemies get 600 bleed for 3 turns at the beginning of each wave. The rush, deal 1,500 bleed damage, 100% heal reduction, and crosshairs for 4 turns, up to 2 enemies. So crosshairs, again, if an enemy is under the effect of crosshairs and they die, they are then decapped. So I think that's an amazing ability. He also has an active skill for crosshairs. So I've seen people say that he's a great defensive lead, and don't get me wrong, I think he's good. But if someone attacks you and their team has bleed resist mods, they could just end up resisting all the bleed from the leadership skill, and then you're not lacerating any bleed if you run it with a lacerator. So I think in time, people who see a Rolito lead on defense will start to run a team that has specifically bleed resist mods, or have a toon like Gabe or Zach who can recover all penalties. even green Glenn has an active skill to recover from bleed. And now we're moving on to the S-Class toon, Hengyan. And I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, so I apologize ahead of time as usual. So this toon seems pretty great as well. Deal 2 attacks of 250% damage to one enemy. That enemy and one other gets 1000 bleed damage for 5 turns and stun for 3 turns. So that would be 5000 bleed damage total. Add an Elacerator and that bleed is doubled on whatever turn. Specialist skill Headhunter, so a critical hit on the enemy, so then they get crosshairs for 3 turns, which is great because he's a decap toon without specifically being a decap toon. He has a turn 1 active skill for crit and attack up, so after using this active skill, you have a very high % chance of applying crosshairs to the enemy, making him the type of toon where you can honestly just buff up his HP and his defense, as well as have a crit chance mod, because his main job is to apply crosshairs, in my opinion, so that you can decap enemies, as well as applying bleed. Now, his weapon, so when attacking, a 50% chance to make a second attack with 150% attack. That's a huge amount of damage when it's already a boosted S-Class character. So this toon, you could either go full-on attack mods, attack set, or you can play it a bit safer and go HP and defense and let the rest of your team or the bleed do most of the work, because crosshairs will be applied anyway. Next, we're looking at Arav, who is the newest S-Class toon, and just whoa. Just whoa. So he's a follow-up toon, so once per turn when the specialist kills an enemy with an attack or adrenaline rush, they will receive a bonus action. This toon, 66 AP, deals 750% damage to a line of enemies. This character gains 100% AP. 100%. So an exhaust toon would work great against this guy, but he is still going to kill a line of enemies on you if he rushes. He's just going to do it. And when we take a look, active skill, recover maim, bleed, and burn. So he just recovers from the 3 main flat damage methods of applying damage to the enemy without actually having to attack. And maim was part of the old meta. Bleed and burn are the current. When we take a look at this guy's weapon, 30 attack, a medium bonus to AP when attacking, and when killing an enemy, heal all teammates for 20% of their max HP. This toon is a beast. There is so much you can do with him. Basically, if you're able to kill an enemy with a basic attack, he will then be able to follow up. And if he has his rush charged, he will be able to rush the enemy, so your team, and do a line of damage. Plus, he gains 100% AP. All you need is a command toon, and all of a sudden he's rushing 2 times on a turn and having his initial attack. With how this toon is designed, I can't even imagine what other types of toons that Scopely has been developing, because it just seems it's one ridiculous toon after the next. Thank you for watching and listening to my video.